So, what do you do?
I serve the Dark Lord, Dark Lord, Dark Lord.
Sounds like you want to talk about warlocks.
Welcome, I'm Nerdarchist Dave with Nerdarchy for Nerds by Nerds, and today I'm hanging out with
Nerdarchist Ted.
Nerdarchy is a place for news, views, as well as homebrews for 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons and other role-playing games.
Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and attune to that notification bell.
Alright, so we're talking about Warlocks. We're returning to our best race to play this class series. So Warlock is a little bit different than a lot of the other classes.
Well, just the framework, you get to choose a pact and a patron, whereas all the other ones only really choose the one thing. So, that adds a lot more, flexibility and twistability to it.
Combinations. You get a lot more combinations. Also, the Warlock is another one of those where anyone could essentially make a Warlock pact, right? So it's not like heavily invested in a skill set. It's just like, I signed on the dotted line. Now I get a bunch of power.
Yeah, and even the one character in Critical Role, he took the Magic Initiate feat towards Warlock and wound up getting a little mini Warlock pact without actually putting any levels in Warlock.
Right, so it adds a lot of role-playing elements to the game as well.
Absolutely.
So when we do our breakdown of best race to play X class, we like to look at the prime stat for that particular class. We like to look at what are the racial features that the different races get. We think which one of these will be useful for playing that particular class, and finally,
and we also look at the theme. What thematically is going to fit that particular class. So we're looking at Warlock. Who would be more likely to get into that based on, the racial lore?
Right. Who is most likely to make a pact?
Absolutely.
As you kind of brought up earlier, Ted, you cannot talk about Warlocks without getting into the pact and the patrons.
Well, Dave, now that you mentioned, pacts and patrons, we probably can't go any further until we talk about our patron.
Nerdarchy long ago made a pact with our patron, D&D Beyond. It's a great way to build characters, and also it helps us immensely with sorting information. It makes our content so much smoother and faster to create.
Yeah, content creation and campaign management are just awesome tools that D&D Beyond offers.
So do us a favor, support the channel by supporting our sponsors. Go down to the description below and click that link to D&D Beyond, and maybe you'll make a pact of your own. Hey, and even if you're not interested in signing up for D&D Beyond right away, you can go over there and check out all the videos they put up, as well as the great articles that D&D Beyond is creating daily.
All right, so let's dive into the different races that we think are going to make a good Warlock.
All right, so we came up with a total of 15. 3 of them are our super versatile races that we just mention every time. We'll just get them right out of the way.
Racial disclaimer: humans, elves, and the Warforged envoy. So let's throw out our disclaimer then. Humans, half elves, and the Warforged envoy are just, because of their floating pluses, they're just good at any race, and we're going to push them aside.
Yeah, I mean, you can make them work for anything. They all get great class features that are pretty flexible. So, yes, any one of those 3 would make an excellent Warlock, or any other class for that matter. But now we'll get into, the ones that we consider, they have the prime stat. In this case, charisma is our prime stat for playing a Warlock. It is the only stat you really need. You may lean in some other directions depending on what kind of Warlock you play. But for the most part, no matter what, charisma is going to be your prime stat.
So you got your Dragonborn, you've got the elf subrace Drow and Eladrin, you've got the Lightfoot Halfling, you've got Tiefling, you've got Aasimar, all really good options. What else is there?
There's Tabaxi, there's Triton, there's Yuan-ti. The Yuan-ti, disclaimer, your DM may not let you use them. They are just kind of better than most other races.
You got the Changeling, you've got the Kalishtar,
Shifter, and Seismic Hybrid. So you have a ton of different ways of playing the Warlock. That Shifter, that's one particular subclass, or I should say subrace, and that is the Swift Stride Shifter.
So, lots of great choices, as you said. So next we gotta look at features.
Yes, absolutely. So, what features are going to help you excel at kind of being a warlock? This one was actually a little bit tougher because warlock is all over the place. I think what we kind of settled on is, in essence, they're kind of spellcasters.
And that's kind of where I was looking at as well. Since the warlocks are a unique spellcaster, they don't get a lot of spells. So we thought things that would boost their spellcasting power or give them some more options would make some really good warlocks. So that's the direction we went.
Yeah, absolutely. Tiefling, you have a variety of things you're going to get there. Yanti is the same way.
Aasimar, you're gonna get spellcasting as well.
Depending on what kind of warlock you are, if you go with the celestial patron, healing hands makes a lot of sense.
And if you look at Elf, we mentioned, Drow and Eladrin in the earlier list, they're going to get access to spells and Fey ancestry. And as you mentioned, if you happen to go with the Fey patron, these are really going to be tied in, especially that Eladrin.
Right, and you really see that when we start talking about themes. So themes, we actually have a bunch of different ones, and we've got some on the list that they really don't belong on the list yet, but we feel like in the future they very much could be on this list, and we can kind of like jump into that as well.
Absolutely. So, you mentioned, in the last list about, the Celestial Patron. Well, that puts Aasimar right on the list for that. They're already, godbound and what have you. So why not, double down on that? And instead of playing a cleric or paladin, play a warlock.
Yeah, well, not only that, the Aasimars actually is kind of like in their features or quirks section. They get an angel advisor, right? That is someone that communicates with them. Well, why not just have that be their patron?
Makes a lot of sense. I mentioned, a couple times the elf. Elf is, normally the happy-go-lucky, running around in the woods. But if you, take the darker side, the drow have no problems, talking to fiends and, might be willing to sign some paper. The lore, drow already worship Loth. Loth is kind of, dark and demented already, so that totally makes sense. And as I said earlier, the Eladrin, that works with a Fey Pact, pretty easy.
Yeah, if you delve into the history of Dungeons and Dragons, Loth was actually Lord, start off with.
Isn't she the queen of the demon web pits?
Well, yeah, but before that, she wasn't actually a god, right? They elevated her status later on,
right,
and increased it. So she's always been a demon. She's been out from the abyss. The Drow Menzoberranzan are known for brooking with demons and devils, so they're just putting themselves out there to be tempted to take on a pact or a deal. Eladrin could literally be part of the winter or summer court, which you don't get any more archfey than that.
That's entirely true. Next, if we look at the Gith, the Undying Court, would totally fit in with Vlaakith, their queen. So that would work easy peasy.
Vlaakith is the queen. She's a lich, undead. Why not have a warlock pact with her? That would make sense to me.
Do we really need to get into details on Tiefling? I mean, let's face it. They're already depending upon which history, which lore you're looking at, in the old days, if you were a tiefling, somewhere in your bloodline, you're already related to a fiend.
Yes, early on, tieflings were plain touched, and it just meant that somewhere's in your ancestry, someone did it with a demon or devil, and now you're a tiefling. So there's no reason why that person might not come back and offer you a deal. Now, if you go with the 4th edition, 5th edition, where a whole empire of humans made a deal with Asmodeus or some other demon or devil creating tieflings, well, again, you're tied directly to fiends that way. So they're very thematic and kind of make sense for a fiend-packed warlock. So next, I would go to Yanti, right? Because the Yanti kind of just scream great old one, snake people. Makes me think of that warlock pack. I think it's very thematic. And they also serve Dander, the night serpent, which it all kind of makes a lot of sense that would tie together.
To me, when I look at the Yuan-Ti, they're cultists. They're beings that worship a higher power. And if push comes to shove and they need some extra oomph, it totally makes sense to me that they would kind of sign their life away, just to get that extra power that they need.
Absolutely. So now we're going to go into like a kind of subcategory here. So now we have Kobold, right? And they kind of go into two different lists, in my opinion.
All right.
One is they're just a natural servitile race, and they're just willing to suck up for power or whatever they can get. So that's a natural fit.
I mean, they've got the beg, grovel, and plea, kind of a ability, right in their racial features. That's like, look, I'm gonna say, don't kill me, don't kill me, don't kill me. So these are the kind of throwaway races that, like, I just totally see as saying, you know what? Yeah, I don't care. I don't care what comes after. I want to be better now.
Now, we also have another group that I would also put the Kobold in with, and that is Triton, Genasi, Tabaxi, Dragonborn. And so these are races, to me, that would have a specific affinity to a Warlock patron that doesn't exist yet, right? I can't imagine that we're not going to eventually get elemental lords, the Emics and other super powerful beings from the elemental planes, dragons, super powerful dragons. I could definitely see them having, warlocks as well as in previous editions we had animal lords. Especially one of the most notable was the cat lord, and that would be an awesome patron for a Tabaxi.
All right, so I like the idea, of these things that are floating out there that have the ability to, grant warlock packs. And you could even, go so far as to be like, oh, well, maybe these beings, they're not full, demons or devils, they're not gods. So maybe they've got a limited number that they can offer. And, that adds, a little bit of fun to the world. And, maybe that becomes, a villain or a major NPC. If you've got a warlock that's in the party, serving them, is it a good guy or is it a bad guy?
Yeah, when you have creatures like Solars, archdevils, demon lords, and other critters like the cat lord who would be of equivalent power out there. They're almost demigods, but not quite. So that definitely puts them in that area of granting warlock packs. So I think we're going to get more of those as time progresses, as Wizards goes to the well to find things. Though Ted had mentioned the limited patron with limited warlocks, we actually have a patron reward coming up in the near future where we do have a giant Jarl that grants seven warlock packs. He can only do 7. And it's tied to some specific things to the land. Also, there are third-party products out there that do incorporate other kind of warlock patrons in there, like the Djinn. Dan Dillon, I believe, wrote the Elemental Deep Magic, which has that in there. And I believe some of the other Deep Magics might have warlock packs as well. If you're curious about those, we reviewed them all, and we called out whichever one. So just go watch 11 videos or so, and you can figure it all out. Or you can flip to their product pages, because it probably sure it says there as well. But, so there's definitely a lot of options out there already, but we just know that more will be coming.
All right, so we've talked about the abilities or the stats, we've talked about the features, and we've talked about the themes. So I guess it comes down time to we got to give our top 3 races to make who makes the best warlock.
So this has been the toughest one of all for us to do. Without a doubt, the first one we want to mention is Yuan-ti. It shows up on all the lists. The only thing that keeps it from being higher on our list is the fact that some DMs might not allow them in the game. I was super shocked when I realized that you could play them in Adventurers League. So Yuan-ti is the first one we're mentioning, and then we get into new territory for us.
All right, so we actually have a 3-way tie for what we feel is the best race, and it was like it just circled in debate. We couldn't really make a decision. We couldn't come up with what is the definitive list. So boom, 3-way tie. We have the Eladrin, we have the Tiefling, we have the Aasimar. Any of them would make a fantastic warlock.
Yeah, one is they have the right stats. 2 is they have features that are helpful for being a warlock. But really, I think what really made it so hard and sent this one over the edge for us was the theme. All of these are so hardcore themed towards specific warlock patrons and packs. it was impossible for us to pick just one of them. Tiefling, has the longest history in D&D for Warlock, I feel like. But, I mean, Aasimar, you actually get an angel advisor, and if you go Celestial, as the DM, I would be like, that's your patron. That just makes sense.
Absolutely.
Right, unless you do some kind of conflicted thing.
And the Eladrin is just such a perfect fit for a Fey Court Warlock that, like, there is nothing possibly better to play with a Fey Pact than an Eladrin. You're already there.
Yeah, I mean, Eladrin, you've sworn fealty to an Archfey. That Archfey is probably either in the winter or summer court. If you're going with that mythos, you very well yourself may be a vassal of one of those courts. It was just so hardcore that we just had to go with those three. It was just super decisive.
So sorry that we could not definitively give you one. But there you go. Those are the races that we feel make the best Warlock. If you feel we got something wrong, or you want to, continue the conversation down in the comments below, while you're down there, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
Hey, you want to support the channel, you want to support us, you like what we do, help us out by supporting a sponsor. Go check out D&D Beyond. There is a link in the description. They got a ton of free stuff over there that you can enjoy.
So until next time,
Stay nerdy.